Greetings, friends. It's me, Wayman, and I read the book today, Homeric Epics and the Gospel of Mark. This was a pretty good read. In review of the book, we need to remember a few things when we read these types of books. Mainly this book and Caesar's Messiah, and the question of how much influence do other pieces of literature have on pieces of literature. Now, the Orthodox community will minimize the influence, and the writers of these books will maximize the influence. Sometimes it's overblown, but there's some really great stuff that you can pick up, and there are, in fact, some really good ideas and comparisons. Now, with Caesar's Messiah, mostly the New Testament, according to Atwell, was drawn from the text of Josephus, Wars of the Jews, and Antiquities. This here, the Gospel of Mark, mostly draws from the Homeric epics and whatnot. But, again, you need a balance, because these authors like to push the hypothesis a little bit too far. It's their pet. Yeah, they worked on it for years. This book here, Homeric Epics and the Gospel of Mark, basically, you should read the Iliad and the Odyssey for yourself. The Odyssey will take probably about, I'm going to say, 11 and a half hours to read. It's a good read if you sit down in the morning, your day off. Beautiful read. And the Iliad, maybe about the same. But after you read that, read the Book of Mark separate from the other pieces of literature. Because all these texts were written separately. And because of the way Mark was written, I have reason to believe that it was written during the Roman occupation or thereabouts of Jerusalem. So, if you buy this book, these books are incredibly expensive for some reason. Dennis MacDonald, he's a big shot, Claremont Graduate University. He's an author of Christianizing Homer, which I went and seen. It's like $125. Yeah, go figure. And The Legend and the Apostle. So, I don't know if you could pick up some of these used, but this book right here was like, I don't know, like $50 brand new, $36 used. A little bit too much for me. And he goes through a bunch of examples. Some are better than others, and some he's grasping for straws, and some he's dead on, which I really like. But, however, it's probably 190 pages reading. You could pop that off in a couple hours. Maybe 5 or 6 hours. But the problem was, again, in the conclusion at the end of the book, he puts all the examples again. So if you already read it, you can skip mostly the comparisons that he makes when he quotes text, because this was written for dummies. So if you already know the text, you already know kind of what he's talking about, you can blow right through this book. And that was my only problem with, like, he lists in the chapter entitled Conclusion everything he said in the book, all the examples. So if you were to buy this book, just buy it for the last chapter. But he elaborates a little more on things within the text on some of these examples. So I'm going to, in another video, go through some of the examples that he gives, and we'll look at Homer and the Odyssey. Especially what's really interesting is the Transfiguration in Mark compared to Odysseus' revelation of himself with the help of the goddess Minerva, I believe it was, to Telemachus, his son. It's excellent. And other comparisons in the book of Acts, where one falls off a roof and dies. In Acts, he's brought back to life. In the Odyssey, he demands a burial, a proper burial, when Odysseus travels to the underworld. So we'll look at those and some others that Dennis R. MacDonald looks at, and then we'll look at some examples in Mark, and also maybe we'll pull some ideas of what he used from the Old Testament also, because Mark, along with Greek influence, all of these, of the Aeneid, of the Iliad, of the Odyssey, also heavily rely on ideas from Old Testament literature, stories of Elijah, stories of Moses, and especially with the miracles, borrows stuff from Jonah. It's a mesh. It's a mesh of many different types of literary motifs and compositions being borrowed and used and put together in his own way to form his own epic. So we'll go over some of the stuff that some of the hypotheses that Dennis R. MacDonald gives, and we'll see where that goes, and we'll do a bunch of videos on it, maybe 2 or 3. So take care, friends, and remember, if everybody's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking.